Hey, what's up? I wanted to look at a play under kind of an umbrella of a conversation, I guess, if that makes any sense. So, one of the refrains I've heard this year has been Rogers is not reading out the concept. He's not reading out the concept. Okay, what does that mean? How does that look? All of that stuff. So, just off the bat, it is something that he kind of fell into with Devonte Adams because with Devonte Adams, you had a guy who at any given time could win a one-on-one. So, if you had a one-on-one matchup, he would throw to him. You don't need the concept. You've got Devonte Adams. So it's something he kind of fell into over the last couple of years with Adams, and we're still seeing some of it now with the Lions. So I kind of wanted to show again. It's not that he always does this. Because a lot of times he will go to the concept. There's a lot of examples from this past game of him kind of reading through concept. This he does not. I want to show what that looks like and some of the downsides of doing that with kind of who he currently has. So all that being said, here's what we're gonna have. We're gonna have over here, and this guy's gonna kind of walk up. Actually, we'll play that here because that is relevant to our conversation. So we're gonna have that slot is gonna walk up over Sammy Watkins. There we go there. Okay, so here's what they're gonna do. They've got a vertical route to Allen Lazard. Actually, I'm gonna run the whole thing. We'll talk about this in a second, and a little quick out. So it's gonna go to Lazard. Get this out of the way. Actually, I'm gonna get rid of our overlay here because we don't need that. That's in the way. And he's going to throw to Lazard, goes out of bounds. Blah. All right. So that's a predetermined look at what this concept is over here. Not necessarily, this is the little concept. It's quick out. I usually put that in a stick bucket. Over here, there's a vertical route. Typically, what that is a runoff route. So you're just trying to clear the boundary, but you do have an alert on there where you can throw that if you like the matchup. Now, over here, the concept we're going to have is the Packers are in first and 10. Packers are in 12 personnel. The 12 personnel being in the form of one, it's AJ Dillon in the backfield, and the two tight ends and this YY wing, hip slot, however you want to call it, formation over here. So what they're going to be running, you've got a little sit route from Mercedes Lewis. As the in, you've got a vertical route from Tunyon and a swing route from AJ Dillon. Again, over here, we're going to get rid of because right now that's not the concept side. This is the concept side. So we're going to look at that. And we're going to say, all right, how are the Lions aligned? I guess we've got single high safety. Lions does do some funky stuff with coverage, so you can't assume that's going to be single high at the snap. We know it's going to be because we've seen it, but if they're dropping someone, it's got to be from weird angle. So we assume cover one, or man free, whatever, single high safety, and then at the snap, Rogers will determine whether that's the case or not. And we actually will do that on this one, and then you kind of go from there. So we got single high. So again, we're going to see from this, and I don't know necessarily the progression read on here. I'm going to say it's probably 1, 2, 3. We'll go that way. I could see a case for that being 2, whatever. Tunyon is going to be the number 1 in the read in the progression, if you read the progression. So if we look at Tunyon is the 1, vertical route, who could potentially cover Robert Tunyon? This is all pre-snap stuff. This man, 2-point stance, looking to rush the passer. If Tunyon's going vertical, and we know as the offense, we know Tunyon is going vertical, he's not going to be able to carry him. So who else do we have? Who are other guys? 4-point stance. He's not going to be able to carry him. He could try. He's not going to. Number 1 could. So you're going to read him. He could carry him vertically. That's probably in good position. But if he carries him vertically, you've got no one on there. So you would read there and then likely just go check down. The other guy is going to be Anzalone, who could wall off and kind of take that vertically up there. So again, we're talking about Tunyon on the vertical. These are our options. So you've got, okay, this guy's out. He's not going to be able to do it. In fact, this is the guy that ends up trying to carry him. So then it does not work. But this guy's out. This guy's out, which means the read is going to be these two guys here. You're reading these. Likely outside in. So you're saying, what's this guy here doing? If he is there, then you know I don't have the check down. And then you look Anzalone, right? So that's kind of how you're looking at it. You've now got this down to I've got single high read, or single high safety. These are the guys that I'm kind of looking at here that I'm reading post snap to see what they can do. And based on their drops, we can see whether I can hit Tunyon or not. Now, again, this is all reading out concept stuff. This is not what ends up doing. This is kind of what you'd be doing if you are looking on that side. So as we'll see here, this man right here, and we'll use the pink because this guy's down in the end zone here. He's going to try to carry him up. He took one step down. He's going to try to carry him up. Meanwhile, these linebackers here, Anzalone looks like he's dropping back. He's going to kind of cut in to take that sit route. So initial thoughts, it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. Now, here, even better. Now, right here, Rodgers has got his foot planted. So we'll do yellow. So he's throwing. If he's reading concept side, he's likely looking down the middle of the field, reading all this stuff on the drop. So by the time he hits the top of his drop, he's going to be facing this way, ready to throw. That's how that would look if he's reading out the concept. So at this point, when he'd be hitting the top of his drop, ready to throw, you've got what, 3 yards of separation there. You also have, number one, kind of dropping back, facing inside. You've still got the safety dropping straight back there. And you're going to have Tonyan fading out. Actually, we'll get rid of that. We'll do the yellow. Tonyan fading out. All those reads, all those drops, this looks good on the concept side. Looks even better if you run a little more. Now the ball's already out of hand, so this is very much in the area of hindsight. But he's bending up. He's bending away. There's no one that can stop this. Now this guy's going over here because the ball's in the air at this point, but he was held to the middle. So it is there. And this guy ends up dropping off here. If this is red concept side, Tonyan is likely the number one read. And based on the movement during the drop back, and you can kind of see that, it certainly looks like Tonyan is going to be open. Now you can certainly say, if he is looking down the middle and if he's facing that side as opposed to the right side, maybe some drops are different. Yeah, sure, maybe, but probably not that much different. You're still going to have Tonyan open. So that's the concept side. So why does he throw to the other side? And again, up and away. Why does he throw to the other side? What are the shortcomings of throwing to the other side? So we'll talk about this other side now. Again, just to refresh our memories, quick out, vertical. Now this is going to be a vertical. Again, that's kind of an alert there. Usually there, you're kind of picking up the quick out there. You're throwing this vertical as the alerts. That's only if you like that matchup. Now, for here, this is where kind of context and all this stuff colors it in. You've got a single high safety in the middle of the field, which means you've got a one-on-one over here on the outside with your presumed number one wide receiver. If that's Davante Adams, you throw that because he can win that. They don't have Davante Adams. They have Allen Lazard, who's fine, perfectly fine wide receiver. But to win this, you need to win this clean off the line. Now, here's a couple extra things here. He is outside the numbers, and he's going to take an outside release. Now, if this was Davante, I want to keep harping on that, but since they're living in a Davante world, I feel like it's relevant here. What Davante likely does here is take a little inside-out release, so kind of jab step, get him moving, and then out, which will allow him to get kind of skinny on the outside. So it's still an outside release, but you're moving him, and it's not a wide release. Now, given the limitations of Lazard, he's going to take an outside release, but he's going to get kind of bodied a little bit, which is something that happens a lot to these Packers receivers. So see how he gets pushed? He's redirected at the snap. He's already pretty wide to the sideline there. Now, when Rodgers rearing back to throw, what you want, there's a thing called the red line. I believe it's called the red line on the boundary here, which is about 5 yards from the boundary. You want your receiver on these vertical routes to be on or outside the red line, because what that does, if you're, well, you can see it here. We'll just picture that is red line or not. I guess it doesn't really matter. If your receiver is on or outside the red line and he's got outside release, you've got room. If we say out of bounds line is here, and so the placement's here, you can throw the ball out, which gives your receiver a chance to fade out to catch that while the inside release doesn't get there, right? So it gives you space, gives you room to let the receiver run underneath it between there and the boundary. If you're inside that red line, again, we'll just call it about there. It's about 5 yards from the sideline. If you're between the red line and the boundary, you have no room for error. That ball has to be pinpoint perfect because it has to be up over the top, because you're not giving your receiver any room to run underneath it from the outside. No additional room for separation. Beyond that, you can still be rerouted. And so Rodgers getting ready to throw this ball, there's no room to throw it. Now we'll look at where this ends up. when he's trying to get the ball, he's still fading out. He's on the boundary. And we'll see this from the other angle here too when we look at it. So he gets bodied at the line. Look at this. Rerouted initially to the outside. As he gets that outside release, he takes the outside release. That's what he's supposed to do, taking the boundary guard with you. He gets rerouted, but then he stays on his outside shoulder or his inside shoulder. The defender does. Keep reriding him out, does not allow him to get back in. This is totally legal, by the way. This is nothing illegal by the defensive back. And by the time that ball's in the air, there's no room for error. He's inside the red line. Ball goes to the outside, and we'll see this from the other angle. Again, some of the shortcoming with this Packers offense. If you like your one-on-one matchup on the outside, cool. That's perfectly fine. But you better have a guy out there that can win consistently. And so far, the Packers do not have the guy that can win consistently. So when you say, like, I've got single high, I've got my wide receiver one on the outside man-to-man, in a vacuum, that's not a bad idea to throw that. But lately, what's happening, especially as more teams, the league is going more too high. So too high safeties, and you get a light box, and they're daring you to run it, and they're capping the offensive production, all that. The way teams are playing the Packers is they're playing a lot of single high press man because they're like, your guys can't beat us, and the receivers cannot. And we're seeing it here. That's the number one wide receiver for Lazard right here. Rodgers looks down the middle of the field. He is looking straight down. He's making sure, do I have single high? Do I have man-to-man on the outside? Again, not a bad decision in a vacuum. I'm confirming that I have cover one. They got a man in the middle. That means I got man-to-man on the outside. Problem is, if your guys can't win those, again, there it is right there. Kind of run it there. I mean, he's getting shoved out. He goes up to get it. He's on the hashes there. If you don't have a guy that can consistently win those, you can't really throw those all that much because it's a very low percentage of time that you're going to actually be able to complete those. So that's kind of what the Packers are running into now with some of this, certainly what they ran into here. And so it's kind of one of those, not saying the Packers don't read the concept, but maybe don't throw the one-on-ones nearly as much as you would like to throw them, because you can't really live in that world anymore. So I want to go through that. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you later.